My dearest sweet mother, Szépség varázsló, which translates to conjurer, enchanter, charmer of beauty. She was a creator of beauty. She always wanted an exhibit of her artwork, and I am so very happy and fortunate to be able to do this to commemorate what would have been her 100th birthday, September 19th, 2021, tomorrow. Thank you to the Orly Museum, Ilona Orly Magyari, Elvira Orly Nagel, and of course to Eva Szabo, who is the museum director. I had discussed this almost probably a year ago, and I am so very happy that I was finally able to do this. My mother, Margit Uivari, was born in Paks, Hungary on September 19, 1921. She was the second of 5 children born to Sándor Uivari and Mario Albert. My mother was a very restless, energetic child. She loved to row on the Danube and of course swim in it. She was an incredible swimmer and even at 93 did a backflip off of her swimming pool diving board. She was an accomplished pianist, but painting? I don't know. Her father painted as a young man, especially while recovering from a near-fatal wound in World War I. The 2 paintings of landscapes, one of a winter scene and the other of a calm river, are in the next room on the wall. My mother wanted to have one of them, at least in memory, but her sisters inherited them, so she took a picture of them, and 20 years, or maybe, yes, probably 20 years later, she painted them. And so she always had a memory of her father. As a child, I never thought of my mother being talented. I knew that she painted our bedroom in Germany with fairy tales, but which ones, I can't remember, and I can't ask her anymore. She made puppets from paper mache, and also my first doll, which you can see on the photograph on this side table. Unfortunately, the doll I do not have anymore. Someone broke her head. It was on my bunk bed. It was an old army transport ship, SS Sturgis, on which we came to America. And I, of course, was with my mother. My brother was with my father. Somebody had broken her head. When we arrived in New York Harbor at Ellis Island, I had given it to my mother for safekeeping because I was ashamed to carry it. And I think she had too many worries or whatever, but it's in New York Harbor somewhere. I was 6 years old. That was my first and only doll. It was December 20, 1950. We lived in Cleveland, and my mother worked a lot. First in a cannery, then as a waitress at Stouffer's restaurant. But she found time to sew and was the belle of the balls in her pink ball gown, which she designed and sewed. And you could see it on the wall on the photograph. She was the belle of the ball, of course, and she was 39. You can imagine having a mother that looked like that, and I was 16. I never had a store-bought dress. She sewed every one of my dresses, every single one of them. We visited fabric stores, no malls. We moved to California in 1964, and my father found and bought 294 Pershing Drive, the second Tunde part. I was born in Tunde Part 1, which translates to Fairyland, which I always thought was amazing, to be born on Fairyland Road, number 1. She painted seals, walruses, turtles around the pool at her home, and she also painted the entire terrace, which when they bought the house had 3,600 red bricks on it, and which my mother, of course, didn't like at all. We picked it up, it was concreted over, and she painted a beautiful Hungarian flower scene. I think many of you have been on that terrace, probably danced, and I danced my first dance at my wedding on that terrace, and many of you danced on that terrace. She also was Let me see, I lost a page here. It was on that terrace that my son Sebastian learned to run. I think my father put on an athletic shirt on him and put up a string on the end of the terrace and said, "Ready, set, go." And he ran. He could barely walk, but he ran. Because my father said you should run. She worked as an accountant in Emeryville, and after work she painted ceramics. First she painted dwarfs, of which we still have some around the yard, and then she started a set of 36 china. You can see them on the table. This set comprises 36 sets, each has 6 pieces, and she did these after work. After work. Each piece had to be fired 3 times, and there are some also in the china cabinet behind you. There are quite a few serving pieces. There were probably around 230 pieces. My father passed away December 27, 1981. They weren't quite finished, so my mom said, "I've got to finish them this year. Please help me. I've got to get them fired again." So I helped her. I said, I've never painted a person. She says, "That's all right." She gave me a paintbrush, and I was the one that put all the little seeds into the poppies and into the cornflowers and into the daisies. So I did have a little hand in finishing them. She also painted these faces to the left and right of me for a 15th wedding anniversary. And this, of course, was her favorite design. Hungarian red poppies, blue cornflowers, and white daisies. My mother, on her maternal side, were nurserymen and gardeners, and she had an incredible affinity for flowers, beautiful colors. We had flowers arranged by her every single day from her garden. And today, this, just in keeping, the bouquet on the table is from my garden. She never, ever bought a store-bought flower. Everything was always from her garden. She would go out there and she would create the most beautiful centerpieces from whatever was in her garden. And unfortunately, all I had in my garden, which is very unusual, was 1 red rose. And the 3 hydrangeas signify my brother Szabo, my little brother Alex, the winemaker, and myself. So you can always create something from nothing, I think, or from very little. When you see the incredible pictures here, the paintings, the desert scenes, the sunflowers, the chrysanthemums, the poppies, the fruits, the irises, the calla lilies, and the poppies. My favorite are the 2 poppy scenes. One, the California poppy, which she painted when we had Gold's Gym, and she thought how appropriate it was to have gold in California poppies. Wanted it to be hung in our offices. And then later on, she painted the beautiful Renoir red poppy scene. Her poppies are exceptional. And there's a book here when in 2009 we went to Hungary to retrace our steps as when we left Hungary in 1945 all the way to Germany, to Bremerhaven, when we boarded the SS Sturgis to come to America. And it was during this trip that whenever we drove through Hungary, we saw poppies everywhere, red poppies everywhere. It was the end of May. And if you ever go to Hungary and you see the Hungarian sides, the fields, they're full of red poppies, just beautiful, beautiful red poppies growing wild. And I guess that's why red poppies are one of my favorites always. She painted, after this, she painted huge murals. I have a mural in my older home, which was 8 feet by 12 feet long, and it was down her lake. And this was the lake that she and I would swim every day during the summer. We would swim from one side to a little island, and then she painted it. She loved to paint everything to keep it in memory in her mind, So when she went there again, she would see it and it would bring back very fond memories. She painted Diamond Head in my Honolulu home. She painted a column full of flowers because I wanted to have flowers, but since I'm not there a lot, it had to be just painted on the walls or on columns. So palm leaves and trees and leaves are all over there. We also painted an aquarium. She was an incredible seamstress. She made me a beautiful díszmagyar. Díszmagyar is a traditional formal Hungarian dress. And it was for my debutante ball. I was 16 years old, 1960, in Cleveland, Ohio. And I don't know how many hours and hours and hours I danced in that incredible dress. And it is quite a beautiful dress. She embroidered the bottom in gold thread, roses of gold thread on the white brocade. It used to be white, but that was many, many years ago, probably, well, it was 60 years ago. She also sewed me a kalocsai dress, which, if you look at it, it's what's supposed to be a kalocsai dress, but it's very different than the typical kalocsai pattern. It has a lot of roses on it, and I was a member of the Gyöngyös Borkéta folk dance troupe from 1958 to 1962, and danced quite a bit in that dress also. She also, at this time, as she was getting tired of standing, she started to do a lot of go blinds, a lot of needle points. And if you look around, there's many, many needle points. And her choice of colors were exceptional because you have to remember these go blinds, although they're printed, you have to use your skill as an artist to pick the colors. The one right above the TV is called A Farewell. It was begun by my grandmother who worked on it for 15 years, and in 15 years she was able to do the little girl, the mother, and the dog. My mother took another 10 years to finish that go line. So it's quite remarkable. And the reason I'm saying all of this is that I hope my grandchildren will treasure these things and take care of all of these things when I am no longer here and I'll be 100 years old. There's also a picnic scene. She did a lot of go blinds of very famous. Színei was a very famous Hungarian muralist, and then they made prints of the needlework, and she did it as a needlework, the paintings. All these beautiful works done by my mother, the charmer, the enchantress. And this morning I was looking at the word, and I woke up one day last week, and I thought, what's going to be the theme of this talk? And then I said, szépség varázsló. It's a beautiful Hungarian word. And I have an incredible Hungarian dictionary, very thick. It's Ország's Hungarian dictionary. And I looked up varázsló because I always thought of a varázs as like a magician. And I said, that really doesn't fit my mother. But then I looked up and it said conjurer, charmer, enchantress. And I said, that is so perfect, because that's what my mother was. Linda is here, and she knew my mother well, and over many, many years. We go back, 40, almost 50 years when we moved out of Ventura. My dear mother, it has been 2 years that you left us. Your last words were, my children, I love you. This is just a change of clothes. A change of clothes. I still miss your gentle touch, your sweet, welcoming voice, your love. I hope you like this exhibit in honor of the creator of beauty, the charmer. I love you, you're Judith. Thank you. blessed to have 4 beautiful children, 10 beautiful grandchildren, 9 beautiful granddaughter, and 1 prince. And I don't know where my prince is. I don't see my one and only prince.
He's with all the girls.
He's with all the girls. Anyway, if you have any questions or comments or anything.
I have to add.
Tom would like to add some words.
I would like to add something that I, as an intimate family member, could observe. And many outsiders don't have that access. And I think to have a full picture, I need to divulge some of that. She worked. When I met her, she worked at Emeryville. She worked from 8 to 5, Monday to Friday. And she got up at 7. She went on her way 7:30, probably never being late to work. And after work, she came home, changed, and became a housewife. She did every day full dinner, which means soup and main dish every day. After dinner, she cleaned up the kitchen, she cleaned up the house, and then she had an hour or 2 to do her own little hobby, maybe broil or paint or what have you. But when she went to bed at 10 o'clock or so, she took her book and she read every night till 3, 4 o'clock in the morning and finished 1 book a day. Not only she finished 1 book a day, but when you ask her what did she read 10 years earlier that day, she recited it. She had a fantastic memory. She had a fantastic photographic memory. So that's why, even though she had not even a high school degree, I don't think, she could sit down and talk to anyone with any subject matter because she was widely read and she never forgot any of those details. Oh, I see. Okay. Now, that basically, if you vision it, she had 3 different functions, 3 different jobs daily. And Friday came, she did not only clean the kitchen, but she cleaned the house, and that was sometimes working till 3, 4 in the morning. She went to bed, but she was up at 7, and she did the breakfast of Saturday. When she was up at 7 on Sunday, when she went to church at 8 o'clock. And she never missed any beat, any of that. Now, I am happy to observe that some of my grandkids, through their mother, did inherit some of those traits. And I congratulate them